often repeated claim that Canada is a nation of immigrants is not actually true. So what I argue is that there is really no evidence to support this claim, that Canada is a nation of immigrants. Rather, what we have is a situation in which most of the Canadians who came here through the 1600s into the 1700s were born in this soil. If you take just the example of Quebec, and I'll give you a few statistics, from 1608 to 1760, immigration to Canada consisted of 10,000 settlers. So from 1608 to 1760, 10,000 settlers came to what was then called New France. And thereafter, after 1760, there was practically no more immigration. Immigration to New France contributed about only 1/7 of the population growth. Most of the population growth was driven by the high fertility rate of the women that were here in New France. The average number of children that women had in New France was 5.6 surviving children. So you can imagine that those people born in New France were the ones that were creating the population of New France. The same argument can be made about the Acadians. They also had a very high fertility rate. So the whole notion that Acadians are immigrants doesn't make sense. A few of the ancestors of the Acadians came, they were immigrants, but their proportion is very small. So I argue this as well for other areas of Canada. I argue basically when you look at the statistics, you'll find that the people who were living in Canada had a very high fertility rate, and so most of the people in Canada were born in this land. They did not come in as immigrants. And in truth, immigration really started in large numbers, you could say towards the late 1800s. So for example, from 1896 to 1914, Canada did experience a high number of immigrants coming here. There were something like 2.5 to 3 something million immigrants that arrived during this period, 1896 to 1914. Most of these immigrants came from Britain, and some eventually started coming as well from other lands of Europe. But even through this period and afterwards, Canadians were still having a high fertility rate. So it is not as if the immigrants were the ones who were populating Canada generally across the whole land that we call Canada. So that leads me to the conclusion that Canada was really created by people that are native. You can even call them indigenous to this land. You don't have Acadians anywhere else in the world. You don't have Quebecois anywhere else in the world. And even the loyalists, they came from one area of British North America to another area of British North America. The other point that I made is that the ones that were immigrants are best described as pioneers and settlers. And there is a big difference between being a settler and being an immigrant. I'll push aside the word pioneer for the moment, just concentrate on settlers. There is a big difference between settler and immigrant. A settler, and I'm using a standard dictionary definition, and I checked many dictionary definitions. If you look at a dictionary definition, it will say that a settler is a person who settles in an area typically with no or few previous inhabitants. Whereas an immigrant is a person who moves to an area that has already been inhabited. They're coming to a ready-made nation. So, following the dictionary definition, you could argue that immigrants only started coming to Canada towards the late 1800s through the 20th century, because at that point, many of them were coming into the cities that were already ready-made. So I think of settlers as coming to a Canada that was still relatively not inhabited, and also you were a farmer. You had to create a farm and small towns and all those things from what were previously very sparsely populated areas.